Hey guys, Mike here. So another big week ahead of us and everything, and so we'll have plenty of earnings to talk about, a lot of economic data, but more importantly, I think the number one thing most people are probably talking about right now is the Moody's downgrade. That of course they came out after hours on Friday. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this right here. They released a statement saying Moody's downgrades U.S. ratings outlook to negative, citing rising debt servicing costs, large fiscal deficit, and political polarization like we have never heard that before. And am I the only one that finds it funny they wait till after the bell closes on a Friday when the weekend hits to put this out? Like, really? Did somebody pay them off to just kind of wait it out? Or did people know they were going to come out with it, and that's why the market rallied like crazy Friday? But the question is, come Monday morning, is it going to affect the markets? Because, I think we all know if they would have waited until Monday to throw this out there before opening bell, you would have had a much different response than, oh, we'll wait till after the bell closes on a huge rally to put this out right before the weekend hits. So a little different effect. We'll see how the market handles it and stuff. But the biggest thing to watch come Monday morning, and you'll pretty much know, is just watch the yields. Here's the 10-year government yield so far. It has held this trend line right here. It's had since May and everything. That's where it just initially got this bounce in the most recent time. The other thing to watch is the 10-year, 2-year inversion, right? And it is re-inverting. It was uninverting. But I talked about this. I said it's not going to come straight up and cross that zero line. That's usually where your damage is done once it gets uninverted and goes across there. Now it's re-inverting again. And so, this is something we'll watch. It's not going to be a smooth trip either way it goes. If you come back over here, you'll see almost every time it tries to uninvert and go across the zero line, it ends up having some pullbacks and things like that. So, keep that in mind. The other one's going to be watch oil, just because it did get a bounce on this trend line. And this trend line goes back to 2020, and it's had multiple bounces off of it. So see if it gets a little bit of a rally. I'm not expecting some huge rally, but just see how that goes, because obviously it'll help oil stocks, but we'll see how the rest of the market affects us, because as oil's been coming down, obviously prices for a lot of stuff have been coming, the price increases for a lot of stuff, I should say, have been coming down because it affects so many other things. So, watch that one carefully. And of course, now going into the indexes, what we're looking for here, you can see coming down, higher lows, lower lows. Now we have this higher high. Now we're just trying to figure out where is the lower lows going to be, because, I don't care what market you're in, eventually you got to set a lower low, right? That's just the way it works. Can it be down in here if we fill a couple gaps and then come back up? It don't have to be way down, that's for sure. Because as we pull out, again, that trend line right there, descending trend line, is going to be support now. The other one as well is going to be support. When you come back over here, that was a downtrend trying to turn into an uptrend, right? And so you have the same thing here. We bought it in October, and again, you're setting lower lows at some point in time. Now, if it's one of these crazy run-ups like you see here, that kind of makes for a different thing. So we got to figure out if that's what's happening here. Usually, I think it's in the middle of November is where you kind of get a little more quiet, and then at the end of November, you start rallying and stuff. And when you look at it in a different perspective, here's the SPY just basically wedging, right, since 2020. And so again, these one of these long-term trend lines. You got multiple bounces off of it and stuff. That bounce recently was off that trend line as well. So it could just start wedging itself in here before it goes for a higher high. And one thing to keep in mind here is I get this question a lot. And before we continue, guys, please hit that like button there at the bottom. Give it a thumbs up. Helps people find the video. And if you like this kind of content, think about subscribing. I appreciate all you guys' support. Why aren't we talking about the government shutdown and stuff like that? And it just has to do with the fact that there's nothing we can do about it. Those idiots in D.C., they're going to do what they want to do. But the truth is, think about this. The longest government shutdown history was when Trump did it on December 22nd through January 25th. And you know what the market did? It actually bottomed. There was a 3-month crash going on in 2018 right there. And it bottomed during the longest government shutdown, and the market ran up 10%. There's other instances you can see it where the market will run up as well. Sometimes you get a sell-off at first. And I get, this time is different and all this stuff. But past behavior predicts future behavior. Again, we're getting in the middle of November, so if they want to use an excuse to kind of sell down, take some profits before continuing the uptrend, it makes sense, right? That's what it would be for. But, who knows what those people in Washington are going to do. I give up on even trying to predict it. We'll see. A new Speaker of the House, we'll see if he gets able to get anything pushed through or whatever, and they agree on some cost cuts and all that good stuff. So, but the market, a lot of times, again, if it sells off, it's because it's using it as an excuse. It's just the way it is. But if a market can bottom on a 3-month crash during the longest government shutdown, you kind of get my gist on that. Now, when it comes to the QQQ, obviously enormous move up, broke those October highs. This is another one. We're looking for that lower low, right? That's what we're looking for here. It will have nice support. I mean, if it turns around, tested that October low, see if it turns that into support. Again, that descending trend line now will become support as well. And then, of course, you have an RTH gap above it as well as the August high. So let's see if it can break above the August high, maybe fill that gap. If we start keep moving up, that's going to be the draw, right? Is to draw towards that. And obviously, if we move down, it has plenty to draw down towards just because there are so many RTH gaps, fair value gaps that are left behind on this thing. It ain't even funny. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. And so again, mark your previous week's highs and lows, previous days' highs and lows, and all that good stuff. There's another RTH gap. I mean, it's just a boatload of gaps. And again, the ones when they gap up, they don't have to fill. They don't feel anywhere near as much as gap downs because the market's heading up almost 75% of the time. That is why. And so I'm going to draw these out just because I think these could be support when we start getting the liquidity grab back down. Now, IWM, always a big question on this. I'm like, when, if ever, which of course we know eventually it will, turn around. You can see it found support right there. And the volume profile is one of the best to use on this one because you can just see this. This one, AMD, and a couple others, it respects it perfectly, right? This shows you exactly where the volume's at. You can see the volume definitely on the buying and selling has both increased over the last month and a half right here. And so it's still in this demand zone. And when you look at these long-term trend lines, this one right here was the bottom of 09, bottom of 2020. The question is, because that's logarithmic, right? Will it come down and touch that? If I take logarithmic off, that's actually where we got the bounce. When we just bounced the other day, then, maybe that is the bottom for this one right here. Maybe it will continue to go up. And so it's not a coincidence that's where it got the bounce. So again, that's why I'm saying these longer-term trend lines do help you out. Now, of course, it has to get above that other trend line, which it was support, now resistance. That's where it rejected off of. But again, the economy is not the market not the economy. We know in the real world, small caps, their earnings are garbage, right? And they're getting destroyed by these higher rates and everything. A lot of them are going bankrupt, that kind of stuff. But eventually, greed is going to set in and people will probably start rotating into this. And I showed you the chart the other day where we've never seen a bottom of bear market where small caps have performed like this before. It's just never happened. So again, time of first. Now, when you look at Tesla, again, another way to look at this is it's just wedging itself in over the last basically almost 4 years now. And so, and again, you can just see all this volume in here. I mean, this is just such a huge area between that like 205, 202 area up to that 275 area. I mean, it's just such a lot of volume, a lot of trade, and that's really the reason why. Because this is one of the most exciting trades for traders because it's so volatile and stuff. You can make a lot of money on it. And now you can see the big thing is the 5-day moving average looks like it's trying to curl over. That needs to start heading up. The 200 moving average, obviously the big problem. I think it's like 2% away from that, as you can see. But again, we're sitting here. If you go down, you can see the tree branches to the right, as I like to call them. That's your supports. Going up, you can see this is quite a bit of resistance coming through here. It's where a lot of volume has been over the last couple weeks here. And so this right here will be key for Monday. It's been lagging the Magnificent Seven, as we've said. Will it finally start to try to push up or continue to basically just trade in a range? We'll just have to see on Monday how it's going to react. Now, AMD has been on fire. Still waiting for it to hit that trend line right above it, which I think is another 2.5%, I believe. But I'm going to go ahead and pull these. That's a demand zone above, or I should say a supply zone, excuse me. And this right here, and now is going to be a demand zone right below it. But we shouldn't be surprised when you look at this. Seasonality is a real thing. And November is actually AMD's best month. The other best month is May, right? And so you can see them both highlighted right there. And when we look at AMD, if you look at even during the bad year last year, I mean, this is this year, right? This is May. Boom. That's when you got that skyrocket move. Looks familiar, right? And then you go and you look at May and November of 2022, and it was the exact same thing. Huge rallies. Now, the question is going to be, NVIDIA doesn't report this week. They report the next week after this. This came out about AMD. And, of course, as AMD goes, I think the semiconductor sector is going to go. That's why I'm bringing this up. And it says, China AI startup stockpiled 18 months of NVIDIA chips before the ban. And I talked about this before because we knew we'd never seen, like nobody, I didn't find anybody had ever seen it before, have such a dramatic increase in their revenue, right? Just in one quarter, explode like that. And so that was the thing we didn't know was like, okay, how much is double and triple in order? And we pretty much know now a lot of it was double and triple order, especially out of China, because they already knew what was going to happen. And the other thing they're trying to do in that article, it talks about, and it's only going to take time for them to do this, but we know one thing they're big on doing, right, is stealing IP, right, especially from any kind of American company or anything. And in that thing, it says that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying their best to come up with their own chips and stuff, right? And so when that happens, and it will happen, they're not dumb. They're not going to sit here and try to depend on America or any other company to supply them with this stuff, and they have a past behavior of doing what, stealing IP. And so if they end up breaking through and coming up with chips and stuff they can manufacture and stuff, that's obviously down the road going to be a problem for a lot of chip companies, not just NVIDIA, but a lot of chip companies. And so, because that is a huge market to be in and stuff. And the other thing is going to be, NVIDIA, I can't wait. Eventually, it's going to come to a point where you're not going to see these crazy increases, right, in the revenue stuff. We just got to figure out when it's going to be, because I know I did a video for the members where we talked about what BlackRock's been doing to help them keep this increase going on, because they have such a boatload of shares of NVIDIA and stuff, which helps them out a lot. And so we'll have to see, because they report on the 21st, I think, and stuff. And so we'll see what happens from that point forward. And of course, they are trying to come out with other chips for China stuff that I guess won't be banned. So interesting times. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm just saying that somewhere down the road, it's going to be interesting how the market basically digests once they stop having these huge, crazy, never seen before increases in the revenues and stuff. So that's what we got to figure out. Whenever that double, triple order finally does catch up and everything gets normalized, what does the playing field look like? So now Meta, obviously sitting here looking like it's getting ready to try to explode right here. It's trying to peak above that level right there. It's been rejected twice now, sitting right at it. It's broke above the other trend line. Again, this is all-time highs right here. So if we bring in the volume profile to look at this, you can kind of see the air is very, very thin, right? So once it breaks above right there around 325, then you're going to see a run to 350, and then of course it breaks that, then all-time highs are right there. So I think it's going to pull a Microsoft and just start skyrocketing towards it there. Now Palantir, of course, we always talk about this. Is another one the volume profile works great on, because you can see very well where the volume is and where it's not, right? And when it gets in these volume gaps, it moves fast. That's what happened last week. Got in a volume gap, moved fast. Again, if it gets above this right here and gets up here, going to 24 pretty quickly, all right? If not, then we'll trade back down to around the $20 area right there. If we break that, going back down to 15. So keep that in mind. Again, up there around that 26, 27 area, or whatever that volume node is right there. That's where you have other RTH gaps that's been setting for a long time. So, it's another one that trades with the volume profile. Now, one I never really talk about, but just because it's like the king or queen of high beta stuff, is ARKK. The 200 moving average has been a real problem for this one. It's got rejected off of it again, the 200 moving average. But I bring this one up because if this one continues to move and break out, it holds almost nothing but high beta stuff. And so I'll let you know that it's big time risk on going into year end for sure. But you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different rejections off that. But it has a lot of support right there. So if it does break around that 36 area, then it will obviously sell back down. If not, though, it continues to go up. And this is another one with a long-term trend line where it bounced off of. And so that gave us our third touch. So, that could be the bottom for ARKK currently, or maybe that's just the bottom ARKK for good if that trend line holds up, and lets us know if it's risk on. Now, earnings, you're going to have quite a few earnings, a lot of retail. Okay, this is what's going to let us know a lot about us. You have Fisker Monday, which a lot of people like to talk about. Then you go on Tuesday, Home Depot, PaySafe, a lot of smaller retailers right there, as you can see, coming down the line. Then on Wednesday, you're going to have Target, Advanced Auto Parts, JD.com, Zim, TJX. Xpeng is going to be reporting. Then afternoon on Wednesday, Palo Alto, Cisco, some other retailers and such reporting there. Then Thursday, you have Alibaba, Walmart, Macy's, a lot of the smaller retailers, most of them never heard of. And then that afternoon, you have Applied Sciences, Ross, Gap, Dolby, and some others coming down the line right there. And then Friday, BJ's and some other companies to look at. But we'll definitely figure out what's in store for retail and what they got to say on the earnings calls as far as what we're spending and everything. Are we still strong or not? Now, when it comes to economic data, a lot of Fed speakers, first of all, a lot are going to be coming out. Monday, no data that I think is going to do anything to the market. Tuesday, you'll have MFIB Business Optimism Index, and more importantly, core inflation rate month over month, year over year. And you can see the bar is low. They expect literally no change, right? So they're setting the bars very low for these inflation data readings. Then regular inflation month over month, 0.1%. Year over year, I don't even see a forecast on that one. See all the Fed speakers? Boatloads, right? Wednesday, a lot of mortgage stuff nobody cares about. And then there's going to be core PPI, which is, of course, what the Fed likes to look at. They're expecting a slight decrease to 0.2%. Ex-food and energy is going to come out as well. And then PPI month over month, year over year. They're expecting a decrease on that one. Retail sales month over month, year over year. A lot of stuff about us, obviously, the retail and the consumer stuff. Then you have a whole lot of oil and gas nobody's going to care about. Then Thursday, a lot of Fed speakers coming out. Continuous jobless claims. We can see if it continues to stay soft or not to give us this soft landing everybody's looking for. Initial jobless claims. All this is pre-market, by the way. A lot of Philly manufacturing and business information is going to come out on that one pre-market. A lot of industrial manufacturing stuff, which I expect to be garbage. Actually horrible, but we'll see if the market cares. Then after the market opens up, Kansas City Fed Composite Index and manufacturing. And then, of course, more Fed speakers. And then Friday, you'll end up with a lot of stuff about the housing market, which nobody's probably going to care about. And then another Fed speaker. And so when I look at that, I mean, it's not too much data in there that, maybe it'll shift the market one way or the other. But again, we're coming in that time in November where sometimes you kind of get, after the huge rally up, it either goes sideways or tries to find that lower low, wherever that's going to be at. We'll see if that finally happens. Because I think, what is Apple up, like 10 of 11 days or something? And Microsoft, and just all these stocks have just went on a crazy rampage, right? So you would think to yourself, can there possibly be any more shorts to squeeze coming up this week? And that's when I say, that's when you get to find what kind of market you're really in. And so we'll find out, especially after a big move like on Friday and stuff. And we'll see again how the market wants to digest or use the Moody's downgrade, and stuff like that. I mean, my disdain for rating agencies after what happened in 08 and stuff. And so I have no doubt they would slip the check to hold off on that one till after I was on Friday. So anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate you guys. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great night.